A lot of this just feels like this is a direct function of wealth inequality in the world. And just people with just like, I've got my whatever it is, my 10 million, my 50 million, I've got the extra billion, and I'm going to see if I can turn that into 30 billion by just like investing in this and seeing if enough people bite. I mean, that's why, like, I wonder if, if there is this crash, if it doesn't just reinflate almost immediately because there's so much money concentrated in so few hands now, it feels like, in the context of this country, but also I think, sort of worldwide, that there's always going to be somebody in there who's going to be like, I can reinflate this market tomorrow and everybody will come back in, and then I'll just get out in, I don't know, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think even if this all crashes and people lose a lot of money, including I think a lot of everyday retail traders who maybe can't afford to lose a few $1,000s or something like that, we'll see another version of again probably really soon. For example, I think some people are going to simply blame the government or some other outside force, especially if the government has a role in kind of popping this bubble, which I don't know how much enforcement they're going to actually do. But I think you're just going to see other people say, we need to do it better this time. And that does stem from the economic conditions in this country, which is sort of a lot of inequality and really a form of casino capitalism where gambling feels like one of the main ways to get ahead. I mean, of course, I talk about this stuff all the time, so that influences what ads I see. But on Twitter, I pretty much only see ads for crypto and for sports gambling, which is now legal and everywhere in New York. And I think those are sort of products of the same economic conditions, which is just that, I mean, I don't know how else I'm going to transcend my economic conditions. I'm going to throw some money down the latest speculative fervor, and maybe I'll be one of the lucky ones.
Yeah, I mean, there really is Sam, I like sports gambling, so that's why he's looking at me. But I really don't bet that much. It's more for fun, not to defend myself all the time. But,
no, I'm not anti-gambling. If you know the risks, that I think that's fine. Yeah.
At the same time, I mean, I am interested in it as a manifest. You call it casino capitalism in your piece, and you just said it there, but it really is just late stage capitalism, is it not? I mean, there is a mass desire from people to, understandably so, knock down the door of this like palace of capital that is accessible to only certain people, and it's kind of this false promise of democratization where it's like, I mean, the Gatsby green light or whatever, that you can never reach it, and it's, I mean, we've established it's become an established way, or I guess a socially acceptable way to scam people. And that seems like that, I don't know, that's a business model that goes hand in hand with gambling and like with the other scams like Theranos or Firefest that have dominated the news cycle over the past few years.
Yeah, we argue that we live in sort of a golden age of fraud. We're not the first to the term, but that economic conditions combined with sort of a general tolerance for more risk, perhaps, and lack of enforcement from authorities, and a number of other things that have contributed to this kind of rampant forms of fraud. White-collar criminals seem to be getting away with it. They get Netflix series. They don't go to jail. Or maybe they'll go to jail and get the Netflix series. But I think, crypto isn't necessarily inherently fraudulent, but it's very well suited for it, and it attracts both technologically, and it attracts a lot of people with experience in fraud. So I can't tell you the number of people who I've talked to who have said they've been scammed, many of whom remain true believers in this stuff. But it really is endemic, despite what some people might want to think.
What do the scams look like? I mean, I've heard stories. Mm-hmm. I know, like, I've heard stories almost firsthand of like a friend of mine's brother was like walking their dog in like a LA dog park, and somebody came up and gave them said like, I'm giving out like $100,000 in some type of crypto as a way of jumpstarting it in some fashion. I mean, it didn't turn into $100,000 until other people were convinced it was worth $100,000. And then I think it just all sort of like dissipated. I mean, that's the VC money, right? Somebody's just coming in and saying, can we turn this into can you turn this million into 10 million? And well, the way we do it is by getting some people who seem to be like mavens or, to go out. And so what do the scams look like?
Well, the general model is similar to what you were just describing, which is basically MLM, and there are different ways in which that's achieved. But in terms of specific scams, there are things called rug pulls, which are basically the leader of a project will just abscond with all the money, which is a lot easier to do when a lot of these people are anonymous, especially in the world of DeFi or decentralized finance. This happens with NFT collections too. Maybe people prepay or they buy in the beginning, and they're promised, again, a lot of features or future access, and then the leader just disappears. That's a very common one. Coordinated pump and dumps, in which insiders are cashing in. I'm working on a story. It's a bit of a difficult one, but of a pretty major crypto company scamming its own employees, basically lying about compensation, and it involves tokens and other things. But because some people are getting paid in tokens. So there are many varieties. A lot of them are sort of twists on traditional financial scams, and there are a lot of hacks, people clicking on the wrong link. Security is a major issue, but I think the constant here is that risk always devolves onto the individual in the crypto economy. And when something goes wrong, you're mostly out of luck, even if it happens on Coinbase or one of these big exchanges. And it's a lot of, one of the mottos of crypto is DYOR, do your own research. And some of the people I talk to say, oh, I was scammed, but I didn't really research the person enough. It's kind of on me. I hear that all the time.
And to be clear, the reason why this is so susceptible to scamming is the anonymity is built into the system. So as opposed to a situation where it's like, hey, send me $4,000, you write the check just to cash. And I would be like, hey, wait a second. Why am I writing it to cash? Why don't I write it to your name? In this instance, it's like, write it to cash, because that's the whole system. That's the way the whole system works. So there's no way to differentiate. There's no way to do that research really on a person at the end of the day, because the anonymity and the idea that like, that's a feature, not a bug of all this, is that like, we can take this cash and just run away and no one will know. And that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, recently there was a story about a guy working on a very prominent, he was the treasurer actually, of a very prominent DeFi protocol, meaning he basically controlled hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto on behalf of people who had staked money and things like that. And he went under this name Sifu. Well, of course, not his real name, of course. And then he was recently unmasked as one of the co-founders of Quadriga, which was a crypto exchange, which in sort of typical fashion collapsed when the founders, including him, absconded with all this money. So he just came back under another pseudonym and got very involved in a very lucrative crypto project. So you see that kind of thing a lot. There's just, an essential part of kind of doing business and even securities laws is disclosure. And both disclosure of who you're dealing with, where's money going, and also sometimes what kind of risks are involved. And you just don't see that anywhere here, besides the lack of enforcement and lack of political governments. So it's really easy to just kind of get around the most basic checks.
Well, do your own research too, right? Is difficult when a lot of the material out there is written by people who have a ton of crypto in stake. Like, I have a friend that I'm listening to this podcast. I think I should buy some crypto. Look it up. Oh, that person, is very intimately involved in this current kind of cryptocurrency and has a huge investment in other people buying crypto. So their stakes and prices inflated. And we're talking about crypto scams and what constitutes a crypto scam. I'll just say it. Isn't the entirety of it all just a big scam in and of itself? Isn't it just
I would say so.
Multi-level marketing scheme?
Exactly. And I'm glad you got back to the multi-level marketing thing, because I think that's what we're talking about, which is your friend, just out of self-interest, needs you to buy in to pump their own bag, as they say in the industry. It's a rising tide lifts all boats situation. They may want you to buy their currency or the one they're invested in. That's best. But really, there aren't a lot of incentives to ask tough questions in this industry. I think there are some good journalists, but also there's a lot of cheerleading. There's a lot of false information, outright disinformation. So people don't really want to hear the bad news or start asking how much underlying value is there here. It's just hype and celebrity endorsements, more ads, keep pushing, keep shilling, because eventually, you know, line go up or number go up is a meme in the industry. This is all just about ensuring that number go up.